Let's toss the ball around.
Okay.
Oh, Johnny. Not much. Good today? Oh, yeah. Throw it. Good throw. What's you with you, man? Not much, man. Catch this. All right.
Hello and welcome to the Weekend Debrief. I'm your host, James. Let's talk about some times in the Irish Hills of Michigan. The Cup race got rained out. So Sunday I was just like, here comes the rain again. Yeah, no amount of Brad Daugherty rain dances could have stopped the cells, or vortex theory could have prevented it from happening. So the Firekeepers 400 at Michigan ran Monday at 5 p.m. The package for the Cup race had a lot of hype around it again because of what we saw at Pocono, though you couldn't ask Kyle Busch about it.
Where would you rate the package here?
Stop asking me package questions. I'm done answering them. Next.
Where we go from here? Well, let's just see what happens on track. And on track, you saw Joey Logano and the 22 Penske team just execute flawlessly all weekend. I mean, they were fast in practices. They were on the pole. And during the race, they just had a stranglehold on the lead. They just, once they were out front, you had to see multiple cars kind of gang up to pass Joey Logano. Honestly, Joey Logano probably was driving Thomas the Tank Engine.
Come on, motherfuckers, come on! Come on, motherfuckers, come on!
He was the conductor of the Firekeepers 400. The fact is, the fastest car won because they also played the best strategy, and they were the fastest car, and ultimately they were in the right place at the right time to capitalize on being the fastest car. Because with this race too, you saw a lot of jogging for track position. It was evident that it was very hard to pass on track. All the cars would just run one groove. You saw a lot of cars trying to dive to the bottom, but once you got side by side with somebody else, whoever was on the outside would ultimately have the momentum coming off the corner, complete the pass. Whoever was on the inside would almost get freight trained by everybody on the outside who had the momentum, because the person on the inside had lost all that momentum just hitting that wall of air. And that's just kind of the gripe with the package. You don't have that air broken. It's really hard to continue with that forward momentum if you don't have the power to sustain it. So it's a toss-up with the package. What I want to talk about with it is that honestly, this was the most closely contended Michigan race I've seen in a long time. How many times have you seen the top 10 so close together throughout multiple points of the race and throughout longer runs? It was really nice to see that because there was a lot of strategy being played. A lot of drivers were kind of cooperating and staying in that line formation. Therefore, they were able to keep up with each other. You saw Logano wasn't really able to break away from everybody at a lot of points of the race. Because everyone would gang up, or Joey was just probably saving his stuff and was like, all right, I'm just going to run as fast as I need to right now to stay in front of everybody, because Joey ultimately had the best car, without a doubt. And it was a good race too, because you saw a lot of strategy. Tire fall off was interesting because there was strength to having four tires, but ultimately track position was more key. And if your car was out front and you could handle well, and you weren't, going to get loose and have the air broken for you, you could run away with it. So it was a good race, though. You can't complain when the Cup Series has such a closely contested race. Yeah, you can say Joey Logano dominated, but you know what? He dominated. So what? When we come back to Michigan for the second race, what's going to happen? Is Penske going to have this stranglehold on the track? Will the Fords have the straight line speed that we saw all race long? Or are the Chevys going to come back? Because the Chevys had some strong cars. Joe Gibbs Racing showcased they had some strength with the 18 and the 19. The 20 was strong as well for most of the day. Denny Hamlin had his points, but once he lost the handle, he was just kind of mired back in the pack, trying to find that track position to get back to the front. And ultimately, he couldn't get that track position, whether it was through green flag pit stops, caution flags, and just cycling on pit road or strategy. He just was not able to get back to the front. Hendrick Motorsports showcased some muscle, but also they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. Jimmy Johnson had some errors, incidents on pit road, kept him from really contending on track. Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott got into each other, causing some damage to Bowman, which did hamper his car. Any kind of damage these cars get, it hampers their speed. And then Chase Elliott just, I don't know what happened to him on the last two stages of the race, but he went from contending in the top 10 to just finishing 20th. So I don't know what's going on with Hendrick Motorsports there, but they had some speed during the day, and also William Byron, he had a decent day. He should have ended up with a stronger showing, but ultimately that's something that needs to be addressed. Another Chevy Camp 2, Chip Ganassi Racing, Kyle Larson was strong at many points of the race, and then, you know, he got shuffled back towards the latter part and just wasn't able to have the handle for his car to come back towards the front. And Kurt Busch, woo! What can't you say about Kurt Busch? I mean, especially when he got on the wall. And man, like we said, any little bit of damage, you could hear in his post-race interview that he said that damage was the factor. That was the thing that hindered him from contending with Joey Logano ultimately at the end. It was really cool to see that Kurt Busch and Martin Truex Jr. were able to team up and run down Joey Logano, because he was out to about a second lead, and Kurt Busch was not catching him at all. It wasn't until he hooked up with Martin Truex Jr., who was second at the time, and then they really rocketed up to Joey. So, you know, I can't complain about the race. It ultimately was a good race. I had my, you know, old man moments where I was yelling at the sky and kind of griping and being too much of a NASCAR traditionalist. And I had to take that hat off and just stop doing that, because it was just a race. Come on, we got to enjoy it. So I thought it was a solid race. It wasn't an excellent race. It wasn't amazing. It was solid. It was what was needed. Going into an off week now for the Cup Series, so take a breather and everyone can start looking at the two best things to look at the summer: points lists and understanding what's going on for the chase and who's in and out, and silly season. Who has contracts that are going to expire? What sponsors are leaving at the end of the season? Who's going to what team? You know, it's like, whew, silly season. So now let's jump into some highlights of the Xfinity race. The Xfinity race at Michigan, another strong, stout field of Xfinity Series regulars. I was excited for it, and it was a solid race. Drivers couldn't get side by side a lot. I mean, you saw how once the driver on the bottom got loose, the air was not there to help support the car, and they couldn't lean on it. It was just instant. The back came around and they were gone. It was a common theme of the race, but it wasn't like it plagued the race. It was still an entertaining race because there were a lot of strong cars. Paul Menard, for example, in his Team Penske car, he was very strong and basically dominated the first two stages, won the first, then Bell won the second, Christopher Bell. It just set up this kind of interesting strategy play for the last race that turned into a fuel mileage race, which was really entertaining. And in the end, Tyler Reddick's team was able to capitalize by having the right car at the right time with the right amount of fuel and crossing the finish line first. And 3 out of 5 for Tyler Reddick. Not bad. He's dominating NASCAR a little bit now. He's got reach that's beyond the track. He's expanded through the social sphere. He's really become that face and champion that the series needed, and he's given a great personality. You know, when I see Tyler Reddick, I don't say that he is any other driver other than Tyler Reddick, because that's all Tyler Reddick has presented to us, and that's what I love. He's authentic, genuine, true. Keep it twisted.
Just got some a twisted TMI like Regan did at Talladega, and that stuff burns a little bit.
Trucks. Without a doubt, this weekend's truck race was probably the most hyped event in NASCAR. Okay, I mean, you had the buzz of the trip. Cool, win some money. Yeah. You had Ross the Boss Chastain. He announced that he was going to run for the truck points. So what's he going to do? What's Melon Man got, you know? And the Biff is back. Come on. Greg Biffle coming back to the Truck Series, doing this, at the moment, one-off run for Kyle Busch Motorsports in the 51 truck. It had a lot of nostalgic vibes for me, and I always loved Texas. I remember watching my first truck race from the Texas Motor Speedway on ESPN in 1997. Kenny Irwin won that one. There was just so much good feeling around this race, and I really wanted to enjoy it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Because from the drop of the green flag, it was an intense race because it was a single groove track, so you had drivers fighting the racetrack more than the other drivers. You saw a lot of drivers get loose, and it was a caution-plagued race. I think there was 13 cautions in total, and there were more cautions in the first 2 stages than in any other race that had stages since the inception of stage races in the Truck Series. That's insane how many cautions that was. At Texas, Todd Gilliland, he was fast, but he also found the wall. Johnny Sauter, he was fast, ultimately found the wall. Stuart Friesen, he was fast, ultimately found the wall. There was a great amount of contenders from that race. Grant Enfinger, Sheldon Creed, Ben Rhodes, Kyle Ackram, Matt Crafton, Ross Chastain. You know, they were all up there and they were battling and they all wanted the lead, and any one of those drivers could have won it. But ultimately, the veteran, the Biff.
What are you looking at, butthead? Say hi to your mom for me.
No, not that Biff. This Biff pulled it off, came through, and went boo, 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 boo at the end of it, because, you know, you shoot six shooters at the end of it. Pew, pew, pew. He won. And that was like what I wanted. Literally, that was the finish I wanted, because I wanted to see a veteran go out there and win it all. And who better to finish second than the other veteran? Matt Crafton, my favorite truck driver, all right? That was, to me, the best race of the weekend. I enjoyed every lap of the truck race, including when they red flagged the first stage. Thanks, NASCAR. Getting something there. You're not using that red flag sparingly. I like it. Biffle wins. He's not eligible to do the triple truck challenge, so he's not going to take the trip. So Biff's not going to take the trip. It's okay. It's all good. But, you know, I would like to see more of Greg Biffle. And not only just Greg Biffle, I'd like to see more veteran drivers come into the Truck Series. Because when I was watching the Truck Series as a kid in the late 90s and early 2000s, that's what was great about the Truck Series. It was this beautiful mix of veterans and young drivers and drivers who just wanted to make it into NASCAR, and their level of NASCAR was the Truck Series. And it was amazing because you saw the fantastic competition that brought, and the diversity of not just the drivers but the teams that were involved. You saw a lot of truck only teams, and we're starting to see that more coming about. Like Jordan Anderson had a great run this weekend, showing that his effort is good. But ultimately, you know, there just needs to be more guys like a Greg Biffle that comes in. You know, when I watched, you had Bobby Hamilton, Jack Sprague, Kenny Schrader running truck races, Ron Hornaday, Mike Skinner, Robert Presley, Rich Bickle, Jimmy Hensley, Joe Ruttman, Mike Bliss. The Truck Series just needs more truckers. I've said this before, and it holds true. The Truck Series is probably the strongest series, in my opinion, in NASCAR. And it has been since 1996, okay? And if you can't accept it, well, then you can just... I hope everyone enjoyed all of the action this weekend. Literally, there was so much racing going on. I hope everyone was able to consume it all. If not, find a way to rewatch a lot of these races because they're amazing. Iowa's next week, Xfinity truck doubleheader. It's going to be a great showcase. You're going to have a lot of Xfinity only drivers there showing up what they got the second round of the trip. Who's going to win some cash? Biff's not there, so the big bonus is out of the question. So who can win the double bonus? I don't know. I'll be watching. I hope you are too. I hope everyone has a great week. I'll be back again next week to talk about trucks and Xfinity.